When a narcissist reaches out after you've disappeared, it's not an opportunity to reconnect. It's a test of how truly awake you've become. Dear friend, if you've ever been trapped in a toxic relationship with a narcissist, the moment they suddenly contact you after you've held your silence, after you've exposed their facade, is no coincidence. It is the sharpest turning point in your healing journey. Have you truly risen above, or are you still teetering on the fragile line between hope and hurt? Carl Jung, the great psychoanalyst, once said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." And in that instant, when the narcissist reaches back out, you have the chance to see clearly whether you are living by the will of your own freedom or still driven by the ghosts of your unconscious. Why does a narcissist dare to return, knowing you've seen through them? They don't come back for love, but for the energy you once provided. They don't miss you, they miss the power they held when they made you doubt yourself. And the danger is, if you haven't done the inner work Jung so emphasized, you may slip right back into the same old cycle. In this video, we won't just dissect the narcissist's hoovering behavior, we'll decode it through the lens of Jungian psychoanalysis. What do they really want from you? What truths about yourself are they awakening? And how can you recognize that this is not an invitation to love, but a test of your soul? Stay with us until the end of the video, because you need not only to understand the narcissist, you need to understand yourself. And as Jung said, the privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. Perhaps the very moment they return is your chance to choose just that. You know, Carl Jung once said, "We do not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious. And in the moment the narcissist reaches out again, that is when the darkness within both you and them is exposed." They aren't coming back because they regret anything. They're coming back to test whether the invisible hook they once embedded in you still works. It's not about love. It's about the special energy you provided, emotional supply they can't easily find elsewhere. Your kindness, compassion, empathy, and patience in the face of their betrayal were gifts to them. But in a narcissist's eyes, they become resources to exploit. Now, after you've held your silence, cut off contact, and dared to face the truth, they reappear, not for you, but for what they can still take from you. According to Jung, a narcissist's behavior isn't just a personality disorder, it's the unintegrated shadow at work. They deny their own darkness by constructing a social mask, persona, cold, seductive, powerful, but behind that mask lies emptiness and the fear of abandonment. When you unmask them, they panic, because no one hates the light more than someone hiding in darkness. But they won't withdraw quietly. Instead, they may come back to you with apologies, with a softer tone, or even feigned remorse. They don't care that you've seen their true self. What they care about is whether you'll soften. They want to know, is the part of you that once loved, forgave, and hoped still alive? Jung warned, there is no insight without suffering. Indeed, confronting the narcissist's return isn't a sign of affection. It's an invitation to revisit old wounds. A trap wrapped in memory, in familiarity, in the longing for validation. They're testing you. They want to know, have you truly awakened? Or are you merely pretending to be strong? Have you done Jung's inner work? Or are you still afraid of loneliness and desperate to believe they've changed? You must understand. A narcissist cannot take emotional responsibility. When they return, it's because they need you to escape themselves. And if you return to them, you're not only going back to a person, you're going back to your own wounded, outdated self. Their return is not a new chapter. It's the final test. Will you close the loop for good, or will you return only to relearn a lesson you already suffered through? What makes this even more dangerous is that they don't come back as an obvious manipulator. They don't show up as cruel, cold, or threatening. They return as the cherished person you once knew, the one who made you laugh, who quickened your heartbeat. They'll send you a harmless, seeming message, "I miss you," or "How have you been?" In that moment, the battle is no longer external, it's inside you. Jung called this the confrontation between the old ego and the awakening self. When a narcissist returns, what they really awaken in you is doubt. They make you ask, am I being too rigid? Have they really changed? Is this a second chance I should cherish? Jung also said, your vision will become clear only when you look into your own heart. Who looks outside dreams. Who looks inside awakens. Now you stand at that threshold, to dream of the idealized version they painted, or to awaken to what is real, what is manipulation coated in emotion. Here's what you need to realize. A narcissist doesn't love you, they need you. They need someone to cling to. They need someone to fuel their ego. They need a mirror that shows they still matter, that they can still bring someone back. You are not a mere human with feelings, limits, and self-respect. You are their supply, an outstretched hand ready to give unconditionally. And if you're still tempted by their return, it means you carry an unhealed part, the inner child, that still craves recognition, acceptance, and love. Jung called that the unintegrated shadow. When you haven't made peace with your own weakness and woundedness, you keep seeking someone to heal you, and that's when you become vulnerable to narcissists. Ask yourself, if they truly cared, why were they silent for so long? If they were really at fault, why wait until you were healing to come back? Why didn't they return when you needed them most, but only when you began to rise? Because it's your resurrection, your inner light beginning to glow that they cannot stand. They don't return to share your joy, but to reclaim the light they once lost. Jung affirmed, people will do anything, no matter how absurd, in order to avoid facing their own soul. A narcissist returns to you not because they have changed, but because they are not ready to face the void inside themselves. And the easiest way to forget that void is to reclaim someone who once loved them deeply, you. But what they don't know is, you have changed. You are no longer the person who jolts at seeing their name on your phone. You no longer spend sleepless nights over a single cold message. You have learned to live without anyone there to save you. And perhaps it is your silence, this serenity you carry today, that truly terrifies them. Because a narcissist does not fear being hated, they fear being ignored. No one punishes them more than the one who once loved them, yet now refuses to react. From a psychoanalytic standpoint, Jung explains that someone who can no longer be manipulated has integrated their own shadow, meaning they have recognized, accepted, and transformed the weak, wounded part of themselves. And that is why a narcissist loses their power when you remain silent. You no longer reflect that vulnerability outward. You have reclaimed it, tended to it, and protected it with your own awareness and self-love. Now, when they reappear, you no longer need to respond, for you know that truth needs no defense. And true love never returns merely because you've grown stronger, only to test whether you might weaken again. A narcissist doesn't really need a relationship. They need a place to feel valued without facing their own emptiness. And if you open the door, you once again become the mirror, reflecting the shadow they refuse to see. But if you stand firm, if you don't reply, if you choose to keep your peace, you are not just rejecting them, you are rejecting your old self. And that, dear friend, is the real victory. Strangely, narcissists aren't truly afraid of being exposed. They only fear losing the one who once pretended not to see. And once you have seen them clearly, once you have stared into the darkness they hide behind their perfect mask, you become their greatest threat. Not because you seek revenge, but because you no longer need to compromise. Carl Jung described the shadow as that part of the ego we refuse to acknowledge, denied, hidden, yet unconsciously ruling us. For a narcissist, the shadow isn't something to explore and integrate. It's the part they most violently deny. They construct a false identity to escape themselves. And when you see through that facade, you don't just see them, you become the mirror reflecting their darkness. They cannot bear that, so they return, but not to apologize, to erase your new power. The power of silence, the power of calm, the power of someone who no longer needs them. They send a seemingly random text, a cool greeting, a nostalgic memory, all with one goal: to see if you remain as fragile as before. Do you still think of me? We had such wonderful times, didn't we? I dreamed about you last night. I can't stop thinking about you. These words aren't born of love. They're a test, a subtle examination to see. Have you truly broken free, or are you merely avoiding your feelings? Jung taught, healing does not come from forgetting the past, but from looking at it directly and integrating it as part of yourself. Now is the time to ask yourself, have I truly healed? Do I need them to apologize before I can find peace? Am I waiting for love, or waiting to be validated that I deserve it? A narcissist always aims for the hole inside you, the part you haven't yet protected. They don't need to shout, blame, or use force. They only need to trigger the unhealed pain within you. But if you are truly awake, you will see one thing clearly. They no longer care about you today. They care about your old version, the one who forgave too easily, sacrificed too much, and yielded too readily. They do not want to meet the new person you are becoming. They want to pull you back to the place where they once held power. And if you respond even with a single word, they will think the door is still open. Jung called this the sign of a sleeping soul, when you're drawn into an old emotional loop simply because you haven't learned to stand for yourself. And that is why your silence is not avoidance, but a conscious choice. A choice to say, I've seen enough, I've learned my lesson, and now I choose me. Remember, a narcissist never seeks true reconciliation. They look for ways to test their ability to regain control. They don't want to take responsibility, they want to erase the consequences. And what hurts them most is not your anger, but your complete lack of reaction. You have become a stranger. You are no longer the emotional supply they once knew. You are no longer playing the healer role for them. You played that part so long, you forgot that you too needed healing. But now you know that you don't need anyone to understand you in order to find peace. You don't need closure because you have closed that chapter within yourself. And you no longer wait for someone's apology only to give them another chance to hurt you. Carl Jung concluded, what you refuse to become will eventually control you. And when you dare to become your own protector, when you dare to say no, no to them, no to the past, no to sacrificing yourself just to be loved, you reclaim your power. A narcissist may never understand why you left, because they always believed they still had you. But one day, when they realize you no longer react, no longer wait, no longer even glance their way, they will understand. It's not you they lost, it's the light they will never get back. And you know what? The most painful truth a narcissist can never admit is this: they return not because they miss you, but because they miss the power they had over you. They don't see you as a person, they see you as exploitable energy. Your kindness, loyalty, forgiving heart, all of it becomes an advantage to them, not a quality to cherish. So when they come back after you vanished, while you remain silent and healing, that is not an attempt at reconnecting. It is a test. As the video's title says, this is the moment you're tested. Jung emphasized, that which is rejected in the unconscious will return as fate. And if you haven't fully grasped the narcissist's true nature, if you haven't integrated the deep lessons born of your pain, they will return not as the same person, but as a copycat of themselves. They will continue to be your fate, unless you dare to call them by their true name. The soul thief wielding loneliness as seduction. Don't forget, a narcissist always uses your weaknesses as a map back to you. They know you once felt not good enough. They know you once feared abandonment. They know you once thought, maybe I loved the wrong way. And they hope those wounds still run deep enough to drag you back. But right now, you must ask yourself a crucial Jungian question. Which self am I choosing in this moment? My awakened self or my wounded self? Because someone truly awakened will not reply to a manipulative text. They will not open their heart to the one who deceived them. They will not seek explanations from someone who never knew honesty. Not because they lack feeling, but because they have learned one thing. Their silence is their strongest voice. When a narcissist is starved of emotional reaction, when they can no longer read yours, when they send a message and receive no reply, they are forced to face themselves. No one to blame, no one to manipulate, no one to reflect them. And at that point, they don't know what to do with the growing emptiness inside them. Jung stressed, "We do not become whole by becoming light, but by embracing our darkness." And you, who have clearly seen their darkness, are entering a phase where you can choose not to respond, not to be pulled back, not to seek validation from the one who hurt you. That is when you are truly free. You no longer need to prove anything. You don't need them to see. You don't need any belated atonement, because you have already understood. You are no longer the supply. You are no longer the savior. You are no longer the echo of your former self. You are the one who stepped out of that vicious cycle, bloodied and tear-streaked. You are the one who once fell, was manipulated, and wondered, "What's wrong with me?" and then rose again through awareness and self-compassion. Not compassion for them, compassion for yourself, for that inner child who longed for someone's love and finally realized only you can love yourself the right way. When the narcissist comes back, what you should see is not an opportunity, but one final mirror. A mirror reflecting back to you how far you've grown, what you've learned from that tear-soaked journey, whether you really need to be hurt again to recognize your own worth. Jung wrote, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are," and you now stand at the threshold of that privilege. No one can push you back unless you step backwards yourself. No one can manipulate you unless you leave the door open. And if there is one thing you can trust right now, let it be this: the narcissist has not changed, but you have. You dared to face the shadow. You dared to stay silent when you needed to. You dared to let go of an emotionally binding relationship and choose peace. And that is what makes you dangerous in their eyes. Not because you attack, but because you no longer need them. You have come too far to turn back for a single message. Don't hand over your power again to one who couldn't appreciate it. For the moment they return is not a miracle. It is the final test by fire. Y si todavía estás aquí, escuchando en silencio hasta los últimos segundos, no es por casualidad. Quizás porque tú, como miles de personas, estuviste atrapado en una relación con un narcisista, una relación en la que seguías intentando entenderlos, salvarlos, esperarlos, mientras tú te consumías. Creías que el amor los haría cambiar, que la sinceridad los despertaría. Pero Carl Jung advirtió, no puedes despertar a quien finge dormir. Y un narcisista no necesita amor, necesita sumisión. No buscan una conexión de almas, buscan controlar tu mente. No buscan una relación, buscan un escenario donde ellos sean el centro y tú el actor secundario. Así que, si regresan, considéralo la última oportunidad para elegirte a ti mismo. Elige la paz en lugar de la confusión. Elige la realidad en lugar de la ilusión. Elige el despertar en lugar del bucle romántico y tóxico. No necesitas reaccionar. No necesitas explicar. Tu silencio es la respuesta. Tu madurez es el punto final al drama que ellos dirigieron. Porque un narcisista puede manipular con palabras, cambiar la historia, reconstruir recuerdos, pero hay algo que no pueden tocar: la persona en la que te estás convirtiendo cuando ya no están. Si hoy te sientes visto, comprendido y fortalecido, dale me gusta. Deja un comentario compartiendo tu experiencia y suscríbete al canal, porque puede que allá afuera alguien esté viviendo lo mismo que tú viviste. Y tu voz, tu historia, puede ser la primera luz que lo guíe fuera de la oscuridad. Y no lo olvides, cada vez que rechazas a quien no merece, envías al universo una señal de que estás listo para algo mejor. Gracias por escuchar. Nos vemos en los próximos videos, donde seguiremos descifrando la psicología, sanando y saliendo de la sombra del narcisista de forma consciente y poderosa.